Hey everyone, welcome to episode 192 of the Alameda Audible Podcast. This is your host Jared Kalmus, joined by my co-host Adrian Ramirez. We're mixing it up for you guys a little bit. We're doing a rare Sunday recording with UTSA coming off the Friday night performance.
Mm-hmm.
We said, that's a long wait for a recap. Let's speed this up a little bit. So we're going to do split episodes this week. We're going to do an individual Middle Tennessee recap and an individual Western Kentucky preview. So Fired up. Adrian, what are your initial thoughts from UTSA's 45-30 win over the Middle Tennessee Blue Raiders in Murfreesboro?
Hey, tremendous, right? It was a tremendous win. It was a big, tremendous win. Although UTSA didn't do everything right, I think it was pretty dang close to a real complete game. Although we weren't quite there yet, we still had our fair share of mistakes, but it felt like UTSA was in control of this game for all four quarters. And yeah, maybe there were some moments that caused some anxiety, right? Mm-hmm. They never quite lost control. Yeah. And so I've got to commend the performance all around. A short week, going out and traveling on Friday for the first conference game, right after the gauntlet, right? And dude, this team really fought their way through it. But I thought it was jarring, and it was evident from the very first quarter, Jared, from the very first drive, that UTSA was the much better, more talented, more potent team in every facet. They were just better. They were so much better than Middle Tennessee. So, I mean, you felt that, you saw it, and they played that way, right? Despite a couple of mistakes. And so really, really commendable and tremendous win all around. Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah. I think from a Middle Tennessee fan perspective, it's hard to find a spot where the Blue Raiders had a real edge over UTSA.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they had anything to kind of fall back on that they knew that they could go to consistently to have success.
And they did play good, right? To that regard, they played well, right? And I think they gave it a good shot, but just couldn't keep up with what UTSA.
Yeah, I don't think they had the dudes to keep up with UTSA.
For sure.
Great example of that. There were a couple of plays where, and UTSA hasn't had like a sterling pass rush this year by any means, but there were several plays Friday night where both of UTSA's outside blitzers just ran right past Middle Tennessee's offensive tackles. Like they barely got up out of their stance before the Roadrunner defense was past them and into the backfield, and Chase Cunningham was having to run for his life. So to me, that was a reminder of like how physically gifted and talented and athletic this defense is. I know we have certainly taken our shots at them. They have been criticized, pretty well from a lot of prognosticators, but that schedule to start of the year, I think, made them look worse than they probably are.
Right.
And I think you also see some of the young guys starting to develop and come along. Trey Moore at outside linebacker is obviously a great example of that. He's quickly become one of the best players on the field for UTSA, which is so cool to see.
Yeah, no, definitely that explosiveness. It was a different level of explosiveness, just sort of firing off the ball, right? And you saw it. You really saw it in all phases and in every single unit on the field. So it was a tremendous job. Defense, we commend the defense. They played well, and yes, they had a hard schedule. I think you make really good points when you talk about they're probably a lot better than what the first four games put out. But I think, and let's just address the elephant in the room off the bat here. This may have been, despite how great of a performance all-around game this was, this may have been one of the absolute worst displays of tackling from UTSA football. This was an all-time low almost when it comes to, I mean, we've talked about it, we've griped about it, but this one was like blatantly just horrendous. And it was almost every single play. I think you even tweeted UTSA was missing their first attempt at the tackle. It was just god awful. Guys were just leaving their feet and just diving at people. And it was bad. And I think that's what kept Middle Tennessee hanging around in this game, or a big reason why, at least, for longer than they should have been.
Yeah, there were a lot of plays that it should have been a 3-yard loss for Middle Tennessee. It should have been a 0-yard gain.
3 and out serious. Yup.
Yeah, seriously. A lot of sacks that UTSA missed out on because they couldn't make solid contact with Cunningham.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
And the sad part is, you said it's historically bad. It's tied for second worst on the season for UTSA. They had 27 missed tackles against Texas, and then they had 20 missed tackles against Texas Southern. So really, they were just repeating what they did last week. But now, I think visually, it looked a lot worse because I think for the TSU game, they were completely not in position to make a tackle. But it was probably even more frustrating to watch the same number of missed tackles against Middle Tennessee, because there were a lot of plays they were in the right spot. There were a lot of plays that had two guys in the right spot with an opportunity to make a play. And it's just like the guys don't know what to do when they're in open space and there's an opportunity to make a tackle. It's kind of wild how often guys are just diving at ankles, or just kind of throwing one arm around the ball carrier.
I'm seeing the dive, I think, more than anything else. I think I'm seeing the guy leave his feet and just hurl his body at the ball carrier. Mm-hmm. They do it low, they do it high, they'll throw them at the torso, they'll throw themselves at the legs, but the leaving the feet. Yeah. And when they throw the body, they're really just throwing the shoulder. The arms aren't extended. The arms aren't outstretched. They're not wrapping around. They're not trying to grapple the ball carrier, and pull him down. They're just relying on the impact, the force of impact to result in the ball carrier going down. And there's no attempt at actually making sure he's brought down right after the impact's made. It's just the force, just the collision, and you're off your feet, so you've got nothing to support yourself and push the guy back. You're not grabbing the guy, so you're not holding on to him. And sometimes you miss it altogether. Sometimes you don't even make the impact. Guys are just missing the ball carrier with just a simple sidestep, right, or cut. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's 2 or 3 extra yards. Sometimes it's what should have been a tackle in the backfield for a loss ends up going for a first down or even larger. It's becoming at this point, Jared, a jarring issue. But it's the leaving the feet and diving, I think, is what I'm seeing the most, and it's absolutely horrendous to watch. And I can't figure out why so many guys are doing it. It's not like one guy is doing it; he's the only guy doing it. It's across the whole defense, it seems.
Well, they don't tackle in practice, I think, is the one clear denominator, because this is not just like a 2022 issue. UTSA has been a bad tackling team as long as Jeff Traylor's been here, and they
going back to Wilson, absolutely, yes.
They don't live tackle in practice, right? So, I think the team is probably too low on men right now to go full contact, during a game week, because there's so many guys out or struggling with injury. So I really can't blame Traylor for that decision, but I think that you do see the impact of that on the field each week, because the guys are just unable to make a form tackle. I mean, whenever you see those rare plays where it is a perfect, shoulder pad hit, helmet on the right side of the ball carrier, arms wrapped around the back of the shoulder pads, it feels weird to see it. But then you go turn on any other college football game after the Roadrunners play, and almost every tackle, you see them having proper form. And it's frustrating, because that UTSA has the talent, that if they had the better technique like that, this defense could be really solid.
Absolutely.
I was going to jump outside of tackling for a second, but I don't know if you want to stay on it, if you had any other thoughts for it.
I was just going to say it's a fatal flaw, and yeah, absolutely. It's impacting, but we don't need to keep harping on it. I think
it is what it is.
I think it is what it is. And I don't know if it's something that we're going to see improve right at this point in the season, because we're low on bodies in general.
Yeah.
And you're already 5 weeks in, right? And so at this point, guys are kind of in their rhythm. They're going to do what they're going to do. I don't know if you're going to reteach form mid-season. So yeah, it just might be one of those terrible things that we've got to just deal with. But it could impact us a little bit more scarier against better teams. But no, I digress. Let's move on from tackling.
Yeah, and I was going to say the other thing outside the tackling too is the miscommunication and the defensive backfield. Again, another thing that just continues to be a thorn in UTSA's side. 2 plays that I've noted. I haven't finished my rewatch yet. I'm in the second quarter still. But 2 plays that I caught live, then I went back and rewatched, and I was like, yes, just as I suspected. Middle Tennessee's first touchdown. I think UTSA was in cover 3, and I think Trey Moore pressed or jammed the middle receiver and trips. And that guy acted like he was going to go on an end route that sucked Kelechi Iwachukwu down from his top third zone coverage down further into the tackle box, really. And then that guy kind of jolted up on, took the vertical option on that route, left it wide open. So then Nick Troy Fortune had two guys in his back third to cover because Kelechi bit on that action and got pulled forward, right? And then there was another play as well that Middle Tennessee was running a mesh play, classic air raid, two outside receivers going vertical, two inside receivers on crossing routes in the middle of the field. And the UTSA defenders, Ken Robinson was a safety. He saw the crossing routes coming and he was trying to tell Pig Cage, like, hey, you take the underneath right here. I'm going to stay up top. Because you don't want to run into each other and hit each other.
Of course.
But Pig Cage was just laser focused on his receiver. And he was just staring that guy down. And he ran right into Ken Robinson.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that turned what probably should have been a 4th and 2, 4th and 3 situation. Allowed them to get the first down because it took Robinson out of the play. And he wasn't able to continue to cover his receiver or make the tackle.
Right.
So just a lot of stuff like that just keeps happening. And I don't want to be like too critical to defense because they still only gave up 23 points of offense, which is pretty good, I think, against a pretty solid Middle Tennessee offense. They did a lot of things right, but it's just frustrating to see those same issues week to week not get corrected by the defense.
Yeah, no, it is. It is frustrating. And giving up big plays like that, like the first one that you mentioned, the 38-yard touchdown pass that they have to start the second quarter and get on the board, right? I think it's 10-7 after that. That one was like, it was a little bit egregious. And then on the crossing route, I mean, that play is drawn up to make that happen, and so you really, really hate to see that mistake, right? We should be able to identify that a mile away. And so you hate to see that one, but it happens. It gets away from you. I do think to a degree that, this offense has done a phenomenal job in making up for a little bit of those defensive woes whenever you're talking about the missed tackles and giving up big plays, secondary letting go of those big plays, because they've happened kind of week over week here and there. But overall, holding Middle Tennessee to 23 points is good. They did do a great job of kind of moving the ball downfield. I mean, they still had 452 total yards of offense, right? But whenever the defense sort of needed to clamp down, they were able to on a pretty reliable basis. So I give it to him. It was another 9 penalty game, Jared. There's 9 penalties for 92 yards from UTSA. Now, Middle Tennessee.
I will say that I think that UTSA did a better job of kind of working around those penalties. I feel like it didn't kill drives like it has in previous weeks.
Crucial moments. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had tweeted after the game that, it was just so impressive that UTSA threw 3 interceptions. One was a pick 6. On the road against a team that beat a ranked opponent last week and still won pretty handily. But then you throw on the 9 penalties for 70-something yards on top of that as well. UTSA really overcame a lot of self-inflicted wounds to win this game in pretty convincing fashion.
Right.
So, that's on one hand, that's encouraging, right? That this team is capable of being the team that we know that we expect to see this year, defending conference champion.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you look at it and you're like, man, you're really going to let bad teams hang around if you keep playing this way.
How many times can you get away with that? Yeah,
exactly. And this is probably not enough to for sure beat Western Kentucky, UAB. And hell, I'm gonna throw Rice in there.
Throw Rice in there. You have to at this point. You've got to respect Rice, especially at the end of the season, a late November game against Rice. Dude, that's gonna be
who'd have thunk it?
Oh my gosh, baby! Oh, I'm excited for that one. I was actually looking at that earlier. Funny you mentioned it. So that's brutal because you can only get away with putting yourself in that position so many times, right? And it's almost like we're running out of strikes here, okay? And UTSA can't seem to overcome these little mental errors. But I do agree with you. When I see the 9 penalty total, watching the game in real time, sure as hell didn't feel like UTSA committed 9 penalties. I felt like they committed their fair share, their handful. Yeah. But it didn't feel like whenever you watched the week past, you knew it was a 10 penalty game because it was just so bad. So yeah, not happening in as big as moments has been nice. What were you saying?
I don't think that we had a touchdown called back for penalty this week. So that's
tremendous.
progress.
That's tremendous.
Because I feel like UTSA probably leads the nation in touchdowns called back for penalty. Speaking of, but because he's had I bring this up just because he's had multiple touchdowns called back on him on holding penalties. Vinley Tatefu was awesome in pass protection against Middle Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like the Blue Raiders have a pretty salty defensive line, and Vinley didn't really let much past him at all. Man, promising career he's going to have. I don't know if he sticks a tackle, if he moves inside the guard. I think you kind of hope he can move inside the guard because it's probably a better spot for him. But for him to be a 19-year-old sophomore and playing the level he's playing at right now, he's going to be a good one, man. It's really encouraging.
Yeah, Middle Tennessee got to Frank Harris for 3 sacks. I think the only one of them was really egregious and kind of on Frank, right? Kind of not getting rid of the ball and running deep into the backfield. But you mentioned already, and so I guess we got to talk about it. 4 pass attempts, 3 interceptions. 4 pass attempts, 3 interceptions, all within one sequence. One was, kind of much at the goal line, the cornerback jumping the route pretty well. And then I guess the ball was slightly behind the receiver just a little bit. One was a pick 6, but that was deflected, Jared. Am I right? There was a hand that got on that ball.
Not quite. So I think that was the one that the play call was for the offensive lineman to like chop block the defense, and they were going to throw like a quick screen pass. But Terrell Haynes just like didn't really cut his guy very well. He just kind of like,
and he got back there,
kind of fell down a little bit. Yeah. So that left his defensive tackle just really unblocked. So, Frank just pretty much threw the ball to him because that guy was supposed to be cut down to the ground from the cut block, and that didn't happen. So, I mean, should Frank have seen that with his LASIK peripheral vision and not throwing the ball? Probably. But I think most of the blame on that one goes to the offensive line for not executing on the pass protection scheme of the cut block.
Okay. And then
the other 2 picks, honestly, like those were really good plays from the defense. Like,
the third one was too.
They weren't great throws, right? Like definitely ones you want back if you're Frank Harris, but it's not like he threw some
egregiously awful pass. No, absolutely not. I mean, the deep ball that got jumped, I think that was the last interception that he threw. That one was a really good defensive play. The one that was on the goal line that got jumped, that one was also a really good defensive play. And so it's almost like, you want to say what the hell went wrong right there, but it was almost like just the absolute worst unfortunate sequence that could have occurred for Frank. I mean, you can only be so perfect every single week for so long. I mean, he's got to have a couple bad throws, right? And so they just all happen to happen in that one single sequence, right?
I don't even know if I'd call them bad throws. They just weren't great throws.
Right. Dude, they just happen to end up in the interception column. They just happen, sometimes throws end up that way. But I'm saying like that probably happens for Frank maybe 2 or 3 times throughout an entire season. It just so happened to happen in that one sequence. And I think that was just like lightning striking twice, right? I don't think there was like this thing that happened that went wrong that Frank did. It was just this terribly unfortunate sequence of events, right? And I don't know if that occurs again for Frank, but maybe one more time, right? Throughout the rest of the season.
Can I drop a hot take here?
Yeah, give it to me.
That cornerback, DeCorian Patterson from Middle Tennessee, I think he's the best cornerback UTSA's played against this year. I think I can see that guy playing the league easily, man. He was really good. Stocky, 6'2", great instincts on the ball, great hands.
Yeah.
And really he really stuck, step for step with UTSA's big 3 receivers. So I was super impressed with him. And man, that was a really nice find from Rick Stockstill to grab that guy.
Right. Well, and despite Patterson's good coverage ability, Frank Harris's 3 interceptions still breaks a single game school record, 414 total passing yards in the game, 139 of which going to JT Clark, 8 receptions. You talk about guys that are pro ready, and you actually had it all over the broadcast, guys that were like, man, JT Clark, he's NFL ready now. He can go to the league today. I mean, they were so impressive, blown away by him, but week over week, this guy's really just separated himself as an athlete and just all caliber, right? I mean, this group is just incredible. And last year it was all kind of being sorted out. Every guy has what they do really well. They all do a lot of things really, really well. But JT Clark's really this year separated himself as just being really, really of a special caliber, special talent, man.
Yeah, and Zachary Franklin had 2 touchdown catches as well. Should have
Mhm.
had a third. I think that was him in the end zone that Patterson jumped in front of that kind of underthrown ball. I
Yep, it
think that one
was.
was intended for Zachary. So
Mhm.
that would have been his third touchdown, if Frank would have just let him, 4 inches more to the right.
Frank throws up the Z every time, dude. He
Yeah.
loves throwing up that
Yeah, he
Z
loves that.
now. I
He
love
loves
to
that.
see it. Yeah.
And
Mhm.
Zachari's first touchdown catch was really impressive. I mean, he kind of bobbled the ball in the end zone and still
Oh
came
my
down with it.
gosh,
Man, that was
ridiculous.
sick.
Yeah, I don't even know how he did it. Yeah, so Zachary 5 catches, 98 yards, 2 touchdowns. Decorian, JT Clark 8 receptions, 139 yards. Joshua Cephas 7 receptions, 91 yards. Just an all caliber group, man. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, and the running backs, brought a little bit something to the passing game this week as well. Brandon Brady had 3 catches for 37 yards, and Traylon Smith had 2 catches for 26 yards. That's a really nice way to keep a defense on their toes when you're kind of struggling a little bit in pass protection, given the injuries at offensive tackle.
Didn't Chris Carpenter have
He had a jet sweep.
He had a jet sweep. Okay. Yeah, because I couldn't see it on the stat sheet. And I was like, man, I could have sworn I saw him getting. Okay, that's what it was. That was. And it was a good gain. It was like 7 or 8 yards, right? Yeah. No, excellent, man. Really, really good stuff from the group day. And Dan Dishman got involved too, got a ball.
Yep.
Love to see it. Love to see it.
Oscar had one. Pretty good spread and balance from the offense as well. This was, I think, their best breakdown of passing plays or running plays in the season. I think they were closer to like a 50-50 split. I think last year they were mostly 60-40 leaning towards the run side.
Right.
This year it's been 60-40 more on the passing side.
Right.
So a bit of a swing back to what we're used to seeing from a UTSA offense as far as that balance goes. At the time watching the game, I didn't feel like the UTSA rushing attack was doing a whole lot because they weren't really breaking the big ones off. But then when I sat down and I look at the stats afterwards, I mean, they were pretty effective moving the ball. We're not really expecting the running game to be like the main catalyst of the offense this year. But I think what the production that we saw from Traylon Smith and Brandon Brady was much more of what I expected to see from the rushing room this year. It's good to see. You did see them kind of wear down that defense into, later in the game, fourth quarter. Finally, Brandon Brady breaks the big one to take that two score lead at the end of the game to kind of secure it. So it's good to see, man. I think the run blocking is still inadequate. There's still a lot of work to be done there. I think the guys are having a hard time getting to that second level.
They had their
having
moments.
A hard time operating a space, but they did have their moments.
They were rare, but they did have their moments where those holes opened up where you saw it and it was magical. But still, a lot of times, a lot of room for improvement. They're still fighting to get those cracks to really open up. But there were a couple of plays where you really saw it. You really saw it live up to the potential that it could be. Yeah, so they're getting there, right? You're seeing them get there. You're seeing the development happen.
To add to that, I think another thing is there were a lot of plays against Middle Tennessee where it was a run pass option. And there was a huge hole for Brandon Brady or Traylon Smith to run through had Frank handed the ball off.
Yes, bro. Yeah.
But then Frank looks up and you got single coverage on a 5'9" cornerback covering a future NFL receiver. How do you not throw him the ball? So you can't blame Frank for that. But the rushing numbers would probably look better if you were to hand off those RPOs a little bit more often.
There are a couple of times where you see, and look, Frank, there were 31, 32 actually designed runs, right, where we handed it off intentionally. And then with those run pass options, Frank Harris, 12 of those, I guess a couple of them are scrambles. Probably 9 or 10 of those are Frank keeping the ball in that run pass option. Mm-hmm. And he had 12 scrambles total, 12 rushes total. So I think absolutely you see him when those run pass options are developing, you see him thinking about it, and there's sometimes a better option. It's not all the time. And usually he does make a good call, but there are some that does get away from him. And look, when you run it that often, it's just going to happen by nature. But I do like the higher volume. I like us running the ball 30 times. keep giving it to Brendan Brady. It's a lot easier when you had Traylon Smith in there healthy, being able to back him up. And I think you were able to see Brendan run the ball better because he had that. But yeah, man, I definitely agree with you that there were times where, yeah, you like to see him maybe hand it off in that sense. But look, for the most part, we were in control. And actually, Jeff Traylor proved your theory, Jared, in that post-game interview. He said, hey, look, we've been working on them for a while. We've been working on these guys for a while.
Yeah.
We've been working on these guys. He said it like 3 or 4 times.
Dude, I feel like it's so rare for coaches to admit that. You know, every coach does it, that they look past one opponent and start game prep for a future one early. Every coach does it, but no one will admit it. I was kind of surprised that Jeff said that. No,
he did. He absolutely owned it. Right. And I think that's maybe why he felt so good and so relieved in that post game. And, you know, they felt joyous. He mentioned it was the first time they really felt good after a win all season long. And that's a tremendous feeling. And it probably has been because they really probably put more effort into winning this game, more prep, just time against this team, scheming for this team than they have anyone else before. And so, look, you had to respect them. You had to respect Middle Tennessee, and we did. And look, we did everything right against them. Do 10 for 14 third downs, just a tremendous improvement after 1 for 8 against TSU last week.
You know, a lot of those conversions were like for more than 10 yards. It was like 3rd and 12.
Yeah. And we were able to get them done. And dude, 167 yards on the ground, which you talk about, finally able to sort of break that threshold there. And all around, I think it was a phenomenal Roadrunner win, Karen. I really think this team did a lot well. You've got to do a little bit better when it comes to the tackling, and we had a few more penalties, a few more discipline issues here, but they weren't detrimental, right? We controlled the game enough at least to where they weren't. So it was tremendous. I'm really, really happy with the way this team came out, performed. But yeah, they were ready for Middle Tennessee, man, big time.
Yeah, got several guys back from injury last week. Datron Taylor was out there. He made an immediate impact. Those first 2 series, I think he had plays on both of them. That either put Middle Tennessee behind, down a distance schedule or created a stop himself. So it was great to see him back. Brandon Matterson had a huge game returning from injury. Joe Evans was back and made some big plays as well.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, Traylon came back and he didn't have a great game, but he still gives that kind of change of pace that I think helps Brendan Brady's,
it's
excel
impactful
a little bit more.
It absolutely is impactful. Right.
And
Brandon Matterson went down a couple of times, like 3 times during that game, but seems to be all right. Appears to be all right. But
I think he's playing through injury. It seems like it. Yeah. So it was great to see him make a huge impact, even despite all that he's going through this year. And then, hopefully Rashad Wisdom's back next week.
Rashad Wisdom was out.
Game time
decision. They decided to sit him. Yeah.
Yeah. He traveled, but he did not dress, which I take as a good thing because that means he was really close to being able to play. That's fantastic. Now, if UTSA can just get an offensive tackle back, they'll really be in business.
We'll be in good shape, wouldn't we? Yeah.
The further you get away from that out of conference gauntlet, I think the better the team's going to look from a health perspective.
Was there anything that really surprised you about this performance? Were you surprised how well UTSA played against Middle Tennessee? Were you surprised at the output? It was 45 points put up there. Was there anything that you were impressed with? Taken away from?
Big thing for me was the pass rush. UTSA really got after Chase Cunningham without blitzing. That was really important. There were a lot of times they only blitzed 3 guys. And they still got pressure on Cunningham.
Nice.
But when they brought that 4th guy, that outside linebacker, they were getting to him consistently. Trey Moore brought a lot of dynamic speed at the edge, and he was creating havoc in the backfield, getting Cunningham out of the pocket. Jamori Robinson, he had that one really bad miss sack that he was jogging in slow motion and just didn't hit the quarterback when he could have just nailed him blindside and probably cost a fumble.
Yeah.
So that one was rough, but he played a good game overall and got a lot of pressure. Before the year started, I said, I think Jamori's going to have that season like Clarence Six had in 2020, where he wasn't getting sacks, but he was getting into the backfield, causing some havoc, just not finishing the plays. That's exactly what we saw from him in this game. So hopefully as he gets into the backfield more often, he'll get a little bit more comfortable back there and start to convert those to sacks and negative yardage. But that was the big thing for me. I know that Middle Tennessee's offensive line is not the best, but to still see them consistently win those one-on-one battles without blitzing, even against one of the, maybe lower tier offensive lines in Conference USA, still gives me a lot of hope that they'll be able to get pressure against pretty much anyone left on the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think, on the other side of the ball, the same can be said. UTSA's ability to sort of nullify what Middle Tennessee was doing on the pass rush and being disruptive, right? I mean, we were really sort of anticipating their defense to really get after us, and I think we did it a hell of a lot more than they did when it came to creating that backfield havoc. And so big credit to the offensive line for really holding their ground against a really good unit, and a mature, a senior laden unit, man. So yeah, good stuff, really good stuff.
I'm going to nitpick the special teams a little bit.
Let's go.
I thought the kickoff coverage and the blocking on kickoff returns, some of the decision making on when to take a ball out, a little bit lacking. I think they gave up some hidden yardage, quote unquote, on plays where they could have had longer returns, or they could have prevented longer returns. Didn't really bite them against Middle Tennessee, but keep an eye on that space going forward, because between that and the penalties, that's how you let a team like Rice sneak up on you, right? If you give them 70 yards in special teams mistakes, you give them 70 yards in penalty yardage, well, suddenly they can only have 250 yards, but it can feel like they're being more productive and more successful than a UTSA offense that might be firing on all cylinders. So keep an eye on that.
18-yard average kick return for Middle Tennessee on kickoffs, and 16.5-yard average on the punt returns. And yeah, UTSA not quite at those numbers. And that's the second week in a row where we've seen these kickoff returns for Middle Tennessee. Last week it was TSU. They were getting big chunks of yardage on these kickoff returns. And so I think that goes back to that discipline thing, right? Knowing your lane, staying home and committing to your assignment, right? These are kind of things that have to get cleaned up. And look, the schedule is only getting beefier, right? As we look ahead to Western Kentucky, at least, you get a little bit of downtime against FIU, but that's about all you can
after that. FIU is the only gimme left on the schedule.
That's it. 100%. Yeah. Well, maybe Louisiana
Tech. Louisiana Tech is not very intimidating right now, but I wouldn't put them in the gimme category just yet.
Could give them the gimme. Yeah, I guess you never can, right? With LA Tech. But look, Saturday, Sunday, Monday off, bro, and not practicing until Tuesday. These guys finally getting some R&R, rest and rehabilitation, my friend. Much needed. So 3 days off for the team.
It's not quite a bye week, but for the guys, it probably feels like one, just to get that extra day off,
Absolutely. Really.
Speaking of which, what did you do with your Saturday off of college football?
Oh yeah, great question. Well, I actually had my sister's birthday party to attend.
Nice.
So, I mean, really kind of bummed it around the house Saturday morning, and then took off to the sister's new house, right? And it was her birthday. So kind of housewarmer / birthday mega hybrid party. And it was a fun time, right? Got to enjoy some spritzers and relax, converse, bunch of finger foods. It's always excellent. But that's about it, man. Yeah.
I got to say, I liked having that Saturday off of where I could watch other schools play and be entertained by that, but not have the stress of how is UTSA going to do today?
Right.
So that was relaxing.
It was super relaxing. It was super relaxing to be able to wake up and not feel that anxiety, right? of kickoff coming up. I did feel it on Friday though. Friday was a fun day, right? You kind of felt it all throughout the day, throughout the afternoon as you were doing your thing and getting stuff done and then getting ready for game. And that 6:30 kickoff, it's kind of like right when you get done with whatever you're doing, be it work or errands or whatever, then it was like game time. It was like, I need to make sure I'm home and ready. So it was cool. Really, really cool day Friday. Really enjoyed it. So you just lounge it up and watch a whole lot of college football yesterday?
No, I was mostly working on our new house. A lot of time at Home Depot, a lot of time at the Garden Center, just, getting it fixed up, getting it looking nice.
Nice.
Yeah. Cleaning up the yard.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
tremendous.
So it's been a long week. It's been a very labor intensive weekend, but it's been good. It's much needed.
No bye week for Jared.
No,
Never.
no.
No days off. I love it, dude. That's great. Well, Western Kentucky, the championship game rematch is coming to the Alamo Dome next Saturday, sir. 5 p.m. kickoff, that late night, not late night, but the evening kickoff, the all day tailgate, baby.
Yep.
It is absolutely massive, bro. Oh my gosh. The electricity. I am so looking forward to this game. I can't wait.
Yeah, I'm really hoping the city shows out for the conference championship matchup, rematch, or whatever.
I want to see that campaign. I want to see that campaign
like
well. I want to see the social medias and the news networks blowing up conference championship rematch here.
Yeah, I would love to hit 30K attendance for this one, but I would be pretty happy with 25 as well, because it's gonna be a rocking atmosphere.
It is going to be a rocking atmosphere. So 25 is expectation, or what you're happy with? What do you expect?
Yeah, I probably expect around 25.
I'd expect 25. I'd say that's a fair minimum to desire from this fan base for this game. And then, 30 would be incredible. But it's a stretch. It's fair to say 30 is a stretch at this point.
Well, I know the students are going to be there. The students are going to be turning up. I can't wait to see Western Kentucky going into that end zone. It's going to be crazy down there.
I think
it's going to be great atmosphere.
I think the big win over Middle Tennessee really helps boost it. I think you get that 2 possession win over Middle. You get people excited about it again, because, a lot of people, casual fan, they just pay attention to that scoreboard, and you see 41-20 over UT, and you see 2-2 in the overall record column, and you're kind of wishy-washy maybe about UTSA. But this sort of, I think, helps solidify, hey, it's a hell of a good game to go see live. So, let's get out there. Let's get San Antonio out there. Let's go 2-0, baby. Let's hit 30K on Saturday.
Any final thoughts on Middle Tennessee game before I do some Patreon shout-outs and get us out of here?
No, tremendous win overall. Really, really happy with it. On to the next one, baby. 1-0. We're 1-0.
Well said. All right. Well, like I said, we got a few shout outs to do before we move on to the rest of the week. I got a film breakdown I got to finish, so I need to get out here and start working on that. But we do want to thank some new subscribers. That includes Kyle Forson at the Insider tier and Andy Elizalde, who's joined the Board of Trustees tier. Andy runs Proficient Benefit Solutions. So if you're looking for any benefit solutions for your small business, please be sure to check out their website, proficientbenefits.com, located here in San Antonio, a big UTSA supporter. So thank you, Andy, very much for signing up at the Board of Trustees tier. Also want to thank Rowdy for Life for upgrading his Patreon sub from Insider to Booster tier. And as always, thanks to our big money donors, Ben Tovar, Rick Cortez of Rowdy Road Grillers, the Bunch family, Zach Espedicueta of the San Antonio Podcast Network, Brandon Padron, and our Board of Trustees members, Digiteek, John Otwell, Lino Perez of Los Dos Rowdy Tailgating, Gary and Ruben representing the UTSA Bird Gang Tailgate, Ray Redding and Mimi Apparel, and Brandon Grill and the Grill Royalty Group. So thank you all very, very, very much. We appreciate your support. If you're listening to this, you got early access to it on Patreon.
Nice.
We'll be releasing later in the week. We probably won't do 3 episodes this week. We'll probably just stick to 2, give you guys the early access for this one as your little extra benefit tier of the week. And we got the film breakdown coming out as well. So a lot of great stuff. And we appreciate you guys continuing to support us at the highest levels. It's very, very, very much appreciated by Adrian and I, as well as Aaron.
100%, big time. Yeah, big time. And love to see the audience grow. And yeah, we absolutely appreciate it. Is it too late to ask one more question, Jared?
Yes, do it.
About Middle Tennessee. How good of a barometer is Middle Tennessee, do you think, for the rest of our Conference USA competition based off of what we've seen through the first third of the season?
I was thinking about that as well. I think it's a pretty good barometer, honestly. I think that this conference is pretty neck and neck this year. I think there's a lot of parity.
Oh yeah.
So I think that Middle Tennessee is probably pretty close to the Western Kentucky's UAB Rice of the world. It still feels weird to lump Rice in that kind of like championship contender bracket.
Right.
But I do think this is a pretty good barometer. I don't know if UTSA can throw 3 picks against those other teams and still come out ahead.
Sure.
But I still think that there's enough here that you can come away pretty encouraged with how the Roadrunners are going to stack up throughout the rest of conference play for sure.
Right. They may not be in the absolute top bracket, but they're certainly one of the higher tier CUSA teams. I think they've proven that.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Good.
All right.
Excellent.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you guys. We'll be back later this week to preview this huge matchup with the Western Kentucky Hilltoppers. Can't wait.
Oh, baby.